Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tracking a massive, almost invisible force and taking a journey that is absolutely fascinating. We're going to start way up in orbit, looking at state-of-the-art satellite data, and then zoom all the way down to a very visceral, human level in the South Pacific. We are tracking the 2026 El Niño. So let's just dive right in.
Right off the bat, I want you to just think about this question. How exactly does a relatively slight warming of water out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean directly lead to severe food rationing and strict police crackdowns thousands of miles away? Honestly, it sounds like the plot of a dystopian movie, right? But it's a very real chain of events unfolding right now. And to understand why this matters to literally all of us, we need to look at the data.
Okay, let's establish exactly where we are right now. Section 1, the arrival of El Niño, crossing the critical threshold.
Just to set a quick baseline for us, El Niño is a natural climate pattern that happens every 2 to 7 years. It's characterized by warmer than normal water in the tropical Pacific Ocean, along with shifting atmospheric winds. And when the ocean warms up this much, it releases a massive amount of heat straight into the atmosphere, which ends up pushing up global temperatures. And remember, we're talking about a planet that's already dealing with decades of baseline warming.
Now, the specific magic number to watch here is 0.5 degrees Celsius. This is not just a random figure. This is the exact threshold of above-average sea surface temperatures in the central and tropical Pacific that NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, actually uses to officially declare an El Niño event. And recently, sea surface temperatures shot right past that line. We are officially in it.
But we really can't get lost in just the numbers and forget what they actually mean on the ground. Mohammed Adaw from the campaign group Power Shift Africa put it perfectly. He said, "An El Niño declaration is not just another weather forecast. For millions of people, it is a deadly siren to be feared." He's pointing out that for countless communities, this metric translates directly to failed rains, dying crops, and skyrocketing food prices. This is the human reality of that 0.5-degree shift.
So, to understand how this global shift even begins, let's move to Section 2, Satellite Spot Ocean Changes, a view from NASA PACE mission.
We actually get a literal window into this thanks to NASA's new PACE satellite, which launched in early 2024. It measures ocean color to track chlorophyll, the green pigment in phytoplankton. If you look at the baseline data from June 2025, you see completely normal, neutral oceanic conditions. But fast forward to June 2026 as El Niño strengthens, and there is a stark, undeniable drop in chlorophyll right around the equator. And less chlorophyll means a massive drop in phytoplankton, which happens to be the foundational building block for the entire marine food web.
So why does that happen? Well, it's basically a massive underwater domino effect. Step 1, the normal easterly equatorial trade winds start to weaken. Because those winds aren't pushing the water away anymore, Step 2 kicks in. The warm surface layer of the ocean stays put and actually deepens. That leads right into Step 3, where the normal upwelling of cold, nutrient-rich water from the deep ocean is completely blocked off. And without those deep-sea nutrients, we hit Step 4. Phytoplankton abundance absolutely plummets. When the bottom of the food chain just vanishes like that, the ripple effects are devastating for fish, seabirds, marine mammals, and, of course, the coastal economies that depend on them.
And that localized disruption, it quickly spirals into a massive atmospheric issue. Section 3, a supercharged global threat. Predicting a historic event. A minute ago, we talked about 0.5 degrees being the official start of El Niño. Well, 1.5 degrees Celsius above average is the threshold that defines a strong El Niño. Over 2 degrees, that's a very strong event. And computer models have genuinely shocked researchers with how confident they are that this current El Niño is going to just blow past these benchmarks. Some European and US models are actually predicting temperatures in the tropical Pacific could climb more than 3 degrees Celsius above average by the end of 2026. To put this into historical context, since 1950, we have only seen 3 undeniable super El Niño events. In 1982 to 83, 1997 to 98, and 2015 to 16. The crucial point here is that meteorologists are looking at the current data and warning that 2026 into 2027 has a very, very high probability of joining that short list. And keep in mind, the 2015/2016 event made 2016 the hottest year on record at the time. Layer is Super El Niño on top of today's already elevated global temperatures, and we are staring down the barrel of unprecedented global heat. But it's not just about the heat, right? It's about violently polarized extreme weather. El Niño radically shifts precipitation patterns.
Globally, we tend to see some classic impacts: heavy, destructive flooding in places like northern Peru and southern Ecuador. On the flip side, we see an elevated risk of severe drought and wildfires all across Australia and Indonesia. Interestingly enough, it also tends to suppress Atlantic hurricanes by increasing wind shear, but that exact same mechanism causes incredibly dangerous droughts in Central America. Basically, the extremes just get pushed to their absolute limits.
To truly grasp what those extremes mean, we have to look closely at a specific location. Section 4, Ground Zero, Papua New Guinea. The human cost.
We started this explainer looking at macro-level climate patterns and satellite data from space. But now we have to ask the really tough pivot question. How do these ocean changes actually impact daily survival for communities on the ground in Papua New Guinea right now? Like, what does a super El Niño actually look like when you walk out your front door?
Let's look at the Tufi district in PNG's northern province. Because of a severe, lingering lack of rain, vital creeks and streams have completely dried up. Food gardens, which are absolutely essential for subsistence living there, have been totally wiped out by drought and some unexpected frost. Local leader Luke Nunisa reported that the situation is so dire that families, and we're talking about families with young children, are surviving on just one single meal a day. Plus, the disappearance of clean water sources has triggered major health and sanitation crises across 8 different wards in the district. It's an incredibly grim situation.
Meanwhile, over in the North Fly district of Western Province, the crisis takes a different, logistical turn. This entire region relies on the Fly River for supply ships to bring in essential goods. But the extreme drought means there hasn't been enough runoff from the mountains. The river levels are just too low for ships to safely navigate. With those supply lines literally severed, local officials have been forced to implement strict food rationing. Basic, everyday items like rice, flour, tin food, sugar, and cooking oil are now strictly limited per household. And local leaders are pointing out that this drought hit incredibly rapidly compared to past events in 1997 and 2015.
When a society's basic needs are threatened this quickly, the government has to step in aggressively. Section 5. Funding the crisis response. Bracing for the worst.
To keep the country functioning, Papua New Guinea's government has moved to secure a massive disaster financing package from the World Bank. We're talking up to 300 million kina. They are activating what's known as a catastrophe deferred drawdown option, which is essentially a giant emergency credit line, and they're combining that with redirected funds from other rural projects. This really highlights just how seriously both financial institutions and the local government are taking this threat to their infrastructure and food security.
And this is where things get really intense. The PNG government is literally reshaping its 2026 budget, intentionally slowing down normal day-to-day activities just to free up disaster funds. But beyond the money, there's the security reality. The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary and the Defense Force are actively preparing joint disaster responses. Furthermore, because they're anticipating that this severe resource scarcity could lead to unrest, the police minister has explicitly ordered forces to crack down hard on any civil disorder or anyone trying to exploit the crisis. The government is bracing for the very real possibility that extreme weather could threaten basic law and order.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer and leaves us with this final, stark question to chew on. As El Niño pushes our climate, and by extension our supply chains, our economies, and our societies to the absolute brink, are we truly prepared for the extreme reality of a warming world? We've just seen how a shift in ocean winds translates directly into empty grocery shelves and deployed police forces. It is all deeply connected, and understanding that connection is the very first step in preparing for what comes next. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.